Whose car is that outside? There's no way that belongs to you. Start talking.
It's mine, officer. I already showed you my license and registration.
That license doesn't prove a thing. You let us search your vehicle right now or you're going in cuffs.
I do not consent to a search. You have no
You
proper
hear me?
cause.
That officer's name was Daniel Reeves. 7 years on the force. 2 prior complaints filed against him, both involving black men, both involving expensive cars, both dismissed without consequence. The man sitting calmly behind the wheel of that pearl-white Lamborghini Urus, hands visible, voice steady, rights being violated in real time, was Chief Marcus Cole, the newly appointed police chief of Crestwood City, hired specifically to dismantle a culture of racial profiling that had poisoned the department for over a decade. And he had been on the job for exactly 4 days. Crestwood City had a problem it could no longer hide. 3 Department of Justice investigations in 6 years. Hundreds of formal complaints from Black and Latino residents describing the same experience, pulled over without cause, treated like suspects, searched without consent, sent on their way with no explanation and no apology. The complaints piled up. The investigations concluded. And almost nothing changed. The officers involved received verbal warnings. The supervisors who reviewed the complaints looked the other way. And the residents who filed those complaints learned a hard lesson, that filing a complaint against a Crestwood officer was little more than an exercise in frustration. The city council had finally had enough. They didn't promote from within. They didn't shuffle leadership around and call it reform. They went outside the department entirely and brought in someone whose reputation was built on one thing: accountability. Chief Marcus Cole was 47 years old with 24 years in law enforcement. He had started as a patrol officer in a small city 3 counties over, worked his way up through detective, lieutenant, and captain, and built a career defined by a simple principle: the badge was a responsibility, not a weapon. He had overseen 2 previous department reforms. He had terminated officers others had protected. He had testified before city councils and state legislatures about what real accountability looked like. And when Crestwood's mayor called him and offered the position with a clear mandate to identify and remove officers engaged in racial profiling, Cole had one question: "Do I have your full support, no matter who gets fired?" The mayor said yes. Cole accepted the job that afternoon. Most chiefs spend their first week reviewing policy manuals and scheduling introductory meetings. Marcus Cole spent his first week driving. His personal vehicle, a pearl-white Lamborghini Urus he had purchased 3 years earlier, became his instrument of truth. He dressed in casual clothes. He drove the speed limit. He signaled every turn, stopped at every light, and committed no violation of any kind. And he drove through the districts where the complaints were highest. He wasn't looking for trouble. He was looking for the truth. On day 1, an officer pulled him over, asked for his license and registration, and when Cole asked why he had been stopped, the officer paused, then admitted he didn't have a clear reason. When Cole identified himself, the officer apologized immediately. Cole made a note. No discipline. The officer had been honest. On day 2, a second stop. Similar interaction. The officer backed down the moment Cole explained who he was. Another note. No formal action. On day 4, Cole turned onto Meridian Avenue, the street that appeared more than any other in the complaint records, and watched in his rearview mirror as a patrol car pulled out and began following him. He kept his speed. He kept his hands on the wheel. He kept his eyes forward. And then the lights came on. Officer Daniel Reeves had been patrolling Meridian Avenue for 5 years. He was 31 years old. He had 2 formal complaints in his file, one from a black cardiologist driving a Range Rover, one from a black contractor driving a Cadillac Escalade. In both cases, Reeves had pulled the drivers over without cause, demanded proof that they owned their vehicles, and searched both cars without consent. In both cases, he had found nothing. In both cases, the complaints had been investigated and dismissed. Reeves had never faced real consequences. And so the behavior continued. That afternoon, he saw the Lamborghini. He saw the driver. And he made a decision that would end his career. He activated his lights. Cole pulled over smoothly, put the car in park, and placed both hands on top of the steering wheel where they would be clearly visible. He had done this before, not as a chief, but as a black man in America. He knew the protocol. He knew his rights. And he knew exactly what was about to happen. Reeves approached the window with one hand resting on his holster. His opening words were not, "Good afternoon," or, "Do you know why I stopped you?" They were, "License, registration, and proof of ownership." Cole looked at him evenly. "Officer, can you tell me the reason for this stop?" Reeves ignored the question. "License, registration, proof of ownership." Now, Cole provided his license and registration. He did not provide proof of ownership, because no law required him to, and because Reeves had still not provided a single legal justification for the stop. Reeves looked at the license. He looked at the registration. He looked back at Cole. "How do you afford a car like this?" Cole's voice stayed level. "That question has no legal basis, officer. I'm asking you again, what violation did I commit that justified this stop?" Reeves leaned closer to the window. "I don't need to explain myself to you. Step out of the vehicle." "I'm not stepping out without a lawful reason to do so." "You have not stated one." "You've got about 5 seconds before I open this door myself." Cole looked at him directly. "I am clearly stating for the record that I do not consent to exiting this vehicle, and I do not consent to any search of my person or my property." Reeves opened the door anyway. Cole stepped out slowly. Hands visible. Movements deliberate. Voice loud enough for the body cam to capture every word. "I am exiting this vehicle under protest. I have committed no violation. I have not consented to this stop, this detention, or any search." Reeves patted him down. Found nothing. Then walked to the passenger side of the Lamborghini and opened the door. Cole repeated himself. "I do not consent to a search." Reeves kept moving. Glove compartment. Center console. Under the seats. Nothing. He moved to the rear of the vehicle and popped the trunk. Inside, a gym bag, a leather portfolio, and a sealed manila envelope bearing the official seal of the Crestwood City Police Department. Reeves picked up the envelope. Opened it. Inside was a single document. At the top, notice of termination. In the field marked officer name, Daniel Reeves. Badge number 3841. In the field marked reason for termination, conducting an unlawful traffic stop without reasonable suspicion. Illegal search and seizure. Racial profiling. Pattern of bias-based policing evidenced by prior sustained complaints. Violation of Fourth Amendment rights. In the field marked effective date, today's date. At the bottom, a signature. Chief Marcus Cole. Crestwood City Police Department. Reeves stared at the document. Read it once. Read it again. His hands were shaking. He looked up at the man standing beside the Lamborghini, calm, composed, watching him. "You're..." The word barely came out. "You're the chief." Cole's expression didn't change. His voice was quiet and final. "Yes." "And you just failed." What happened next took less than 10 minutes. Cole called for a supervisor. Sergeant Yvonne Marsh arrived, took one look at the situation, and didn't waste words. Reeves surrendered his badge and his service weapon on the side of Meridian Avenue, the same street where he had spent 5 years pulling over black drivers who had done nothing wrong. That evening, Cole stood at the head of the conference room and played the body cam footage for every sergeant, lieutenant, and captain in the building. The room was silent. When it ended, he spoke. "This department has a documented pattern of racial profiling. That pattern has been enabled by leadership that chose not to act. I was hired to change that. What you just watched is what that change looks like." One captain asked if Cole had set Reeves up. Cole looked at him. "I drove my car down a public street and obeyed every law. If an officer can't drive past a black man in an expensive car without assuming he's a criminal, that officer doesn't belong in this department. That's not a setup. That's a standard." No one else spoke. The next morning, Cole held a press conference. He released the body cam footage in full. He read from Reeves' personnel file. He named the 2 prior complaints that had been filed and dismissed. And he made a promise to the residents of Crestwood City. Every officer in this department will follow the Constitution. Every stop will require documented reasonable suspicion. Every complaint will be taken seriously. And every officer who cannot meet that standard will be removed. That is not a threat. That is a guarantee. The story went national within hours. Reeves filed for arbitration. His attorney argued entrapment. The arbitrator, a retired federal judge, reviewed the footage, the personnel file, and the testimony. The termination was upheld. The written decision was blunt. Reeves had conducted a stop without legal justification, threatened arrest without cause, and searched a vehicle over the explicit objection of the owner. His prior complaints established a pattern. The termination was not only justified, it was overdue. Daniel Reeves applied to 6 other departments. Every background check surfaced the same thing. No agency would hire him. He left law enforcement entirely. His body cam footage is now shown in police academies across the country, not as a story about one bad officer, but as a warning about what happens when departments ignore patterns and protect misconduct. Under Chief Marcus Cole's leadership, Crestwood City transformed. Racial disparities in traffic stops dropped by 71%. Community trust surveys showed consistent improvement year over year. An independent oversight board reviewed body cam footage monthly. Officers with complaint patterns were flagged, retrained, or removed. 7 other officers were identified with records similar to Reeves. 3 were terminated. 4 completed mandatory constitutional policing courses and remained on probation. The message was understood throughout the department. The badge was not a license to profile. The Constitution was not optional. And the new chief had already proven, on day 4, on Meridian Avenue, that he meant every word. Chief Marcus Cole still leads the Crestwood City Police Department. He still drives the Lamborghini. And he has never once regretted what he did on that afternoon, because what he did was simple. He drove his car. He knew his rights. And when an officer violated them, he held that officer accountable. That's not a gotcha. That's not a trap. That's what justice looks like when someone finally has the power to deliver it. If you believe every person, regardless of race, should be able to drive their own car without being treated like a criminal, share this story. And if you think accountability has to start at the very top, subscribe. Because we're not done yet.